So we have 19 charities in our full portfolio, of which 5 are top picks. So I'm just going to do about a minute overview of each of the remaining 14 charities. So I'm going to do 4 on each slide, and I'm going to be pretty quick here, and I've tried to group them so more similar charities come together. Okay, so the first one is in the top left here, which is the Schistosomiasis Control Initiative. So schistosomiasis is an intestinal worm, and it's also what we call a neglected tropical disease. So this is an illness which hasn't received much funding or attention and is still very prevalent. So there are 4 worms that are treated by Schistosomiasis Control Initiative: Schistosomiasis, roundworm, whipworm, and hookworm. And they treat children and at-risk adults for intestinal worms in areas where a lot of people have these intestinal worms. It's very cost-effective. It's only about $1 per treatment. And there's a lot of evidence that there are some positive effects on health, schooling, and later life income. The second charity is Evidence Action. So they have 3 programs. The first program is Deworm the World, which does a very similar thing to Schistosomiasis Control Initiative. So they carry out school-based mass deworming programs in Asia and Africa to treat these intestinal worms. Their second program at Evidence Action is called Dispensers for Safe Water. So they provide chlorine dispensers to about 5 million people, mostly in Eastern Africa. So there's evidence that by providing chlorine dispensers at the point of water collection, people are more likely to add chlorine to their water. And by adding chlorine to their water, this kind of kills a lot of germs and infections and reduces the rate of diarrhea. And diarrhea is still a leading cause of death for children under 5 in developing countries. Evidence Action also has a third program, which they call Evidence Action Beta. And basically what they do is they take the kind of academic evidence about which development interventions and global health interventions work and investigate ways to scale up these programs into full programs. So Dispensers for Safe Water and Deworm the World both came out of this process. So Evidence Action Beta kind of works to develop the next key programs that might really help a lot of people in a very cost-effective way. Okay, the next charity is Population Services International. So this is a very large charity and used to be on our top picks until earlier in 2018. So we're a big fan of what they do. They basically focus on kind of providing HIV, malaria, and family planning health products and treatments to people in parts of the world where these products aren't necessarily available. They work in 65 different countries, and they follow a very business-like approach of kind of franchising and marketing these health products and educational programs. Okay, the next one is Development Media International. So they work on behavior change and try and encourage people to kind of do simple things that have been shown to improve health. So this might be hand washing, family planning, or kind of breastfeeding campaigns to encourage these kind of health behaviors. So to do this, they produce television and radio campaigns. Some of these are often kind of soap opera style programs where they kind of work in storylines relevant to these health behaviors and practices. They're also running a 5-year randomized trial in Burkina Faso where they've had like very promising midline results. So yeah, we're a big fan of Development Media International. They've got a very innovative approach to achieving behavior change, which can lead to lasting benefits in terms of health. The next 2 charities are Fistula Foundation and Sever Foundation, and they focus on kind of providing surgery procedures to kind of fix kind of health problems that people often have in developing countries. So the first is Fistula Foundation, and they work to kind of repair obstetric fistulas. So an obstetric fistula is a hole between the vagina and a rectum that's caused by a prolonged or obstructed labor. So these are actually remarkably common in developing countries when women give birth without access to the appropriate medical facilities. These fistulas can obviously be very painful and can lead to a kind of taboo and women being outcast from their communities. The surgery is relatively low cost. So on average, we estimate that the Fistula Foundation It costs them about $586 per surgery. But we really think that each surgery is having a really big and lasting impact on these women's lives. We think it's a pretty horrible condition to have to live with. And so, yeah, this is a pretty low-cost way of having a dramatic improvement in a woman's life. The second charity that kind of does surgical procedures is the Sever Foundation. So they work to prevent and cure blindness and visual impairment in developing countries. So there's often a lot of preventable blindness or other visual impairments in low-income areas. But sometimes there are very cost-effective solutions to these issues. So one example is cataract surgeries, and these can cost as little as $50 per surgery and can restore the sight of someone who's living in blindness in a developing country. A kind of similar charity that works in a similar space is DREV, and the name comes from Design Revolution. So what they do is they try and design and deliver innovative medical devices. So there's two that they mostly focus on at the moment. So the first they call is the Brilliance Phototherapy Lamp, and this treats babies with severe jaundice. And jaundice can kind of cause severe brain damage in babies if they're not treated shortly after their birth. And a second is their program, which is called Remotion Knee. And this is a high quality prosthetic, which costs about $80 for people who may have missing limbs for one reason or the other. So yeah, DREV again kind of provides medical solutions to very severe problems, and we think they're having a big impact, a big positive impact on people's lives. Okay, the next three charities are very similar to, well, they do a similar thing to Project Healthy Children. That is one of our top picks. So if you want to learn about Project Healthy Children, you should watch the first video in this two-part series. But they also focus on micronutrient fortification. They all do slightly different things. So the first is Helen Keller International's vitamin A supplementation program. So vitamin A deficiency can cause blindness, and it can increase the risk of disease and also in some extreme cases increase the risk of death. So Helen Keller International facilitates mass distributions of vitamin A supplementations to children who live in areas where there's a lot of vitamin A deficiency. So each supplement costs less than $1, and we think this is a highly cost-effective program. And again, this is one of GiveWell's top recommended programs. So the next two charities actually focus on iodine. So the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition and the Iodine Global Network both focus on salt iodization. So if you kind of go to your supermarket in the West, and if you look at a salt packet, most salt that we buy has already been fortified with iodine. And a reason for this is because iodine is a vital micronutrient for mental and physical health. So iodine deficiency is a leading cause of preventable brain damage. And to fortify salt with iodine is, again, extremely cost effective. So the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition estimate that it costs between 15 and 50 cents to iodize salt for one person for their entire lifetime. And the Iodine Global Network has a similar low-cost estimate of about 5 cents per person per year. So we think both of these organizations are extremely cost-effective in improving nutrition and therefore health. Okay, the last four charities I want to talk about are on this slide here. So I'll start with Village Enterprise. And what they do is they provide entrepreneurship training, cash grants, and business mentoring, and also a savings group to extremely poor people in Kenya and Uganda. So they target their program at people who live below a certain poverty threshold. And then they provide them with some money, but also expertise to kind of help them set up a business and run it effectively. So they have strong evidence from a randomized controlled trial that their program leads to sustained increases in income. And this evidence kind of backs up a lot of evidence from randomized trials in similar programs in slightly different settings. So we think there's very strong evidence that the program that Village Enterprise runs has long-lasting and large effects on people's incomes. The next charity is 1 Acre Fund. So they help small farmers improve their harvests and maximize farm profits. They do this by giving them startup financing and access to inputs, so seeds and fertilizer. And then they also kind of allow there to be some agricultural training and give help farmers get access to markets. On average, they estimate their farmers increase their profits by about 50% once they've been through their program. So yeah, here this is a kind of market-based solution to help farmers grow their businesses. Oxfam is another charity recommended by the Life You Can Save and on our full portfolio. It's probably our most well-known charity. They work in a huge number of areas across a very large number of countries. So they do a lot of advocacy for kind of governments to spend more and pay more attention to problems in developing countries. They do a lot of disaster relief. They work a lot in education, health, sanitation, and women's rights, among other programs. So yeah, we think there's some merit to supporting large charities, especially those who can help lobby governments and can help kind of provide public goods in the aid sector. And that's kind of one of the key reasons why Oxfam is on our list. And then the final charity is Innovations for Poverty Action. They're slightly different to the others in that what they do is mostly focus on research. So they use research to kind of test which interventions are most effective at kind of improving health or improving economic outcomes of the world's extreme poor. And actually, a lot of their evidence from a lot of their studies underpins our recommendations. So yeah, it's one of the charities that we think has like a big leverage in terms of if you donate to Innovations for Poverty Action, then your kind of impact is maybe less direct, but you're funding research that is helping us to prioritize which programs to fund. So yeah, we're huge fans of Innovations for Poverty Action. We think their kind of mindset is very similar to ours about they care about effective giving and effective philanthropy, and they're kind of providing a lot of the research that facilitates organizations like One for the World doing charity research and making recommendations to our members. Okay, so that's the end of my overview of One for the World's charity portfolio. Remember, there's two videos. There's one which focuses on our top picks, and there's this shorter video which just gives a brief overview of the rest of the charities in our portfolio. If you do have any questions, please do feel free to reach out to me at rossa@onefortheworld.org. And yeah, I'm always happy to talk about these charities and to kind of answer any questions you have. Okay, thank you very much.